Welcome back. You're watching NewDay Saturday edition live on TV3, also on 3FM 92.7. I will quickly introduce the panelists for today. Obviously, very much eager to start the discussions because you could hear them in the background. We will quickly get on with that. I'll start from my extreme left, where we have Mr. Joe Jackson. He's a finance person and he's with Daylex Finance. He's a regular on the show. Next is the Honorable George Anda. He is MP for Ewutu-Senya West constituency, also the Deputy Minister for Communications. And we have next to Mr. Honorable Anda, Nana Ejei Bafo Iwa. He is a private legal practitioner. And last but not least is the Honorable Edward Bawa. He is MP for Bongo. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show. It's been a while. I've missed you all. Great. So we'll quickly start off with the Ameri agreement and everything else that's coming with it. I will start with Honorable Edward Bauer here because I've seen a piece that you've put out which was trying to give some insights into the whole agreement. Now, you did talk in there about, or you raised an issue concerning which you referred to as perhaps a failure to comply with, the standing orders of Parliament. If you could, elaborate more on that, because moving forward, we need to bring into question some issues around that as well. What exactly is the problem with that?
Oh, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers.
I'm using the statement that he has released.
I think that basically, if you look at Parliament generally, we work based on certain rules. Our activities are guided by our standing orders, as prescribed in the Constitution of Ghana, the 110.
Article 110, yes.
And so whatever activity we do within Parliament, it is guided by either the standing orders or the Constitution. If you look at our standing orders clearly, usually what you do have is that when, for example, any MP decides that he wants to file a motion, when the motion is tabled and seconded, Mr. Speaker allows deliberations on the motion. And then
in the plenary.
And then after that, if in the wisdom of Mr. Speaker, he thinks that this has to be referred to a relevant committee for further investigation, further deliberation to report to the House, that is done. What happened, and you will recall just before we went on recess, was that when the motion was tabled by Honorable Katie Hammond and seconded, Mr. Speaker decided to immediately refer the case to the Mines and Energy Committee, which I'm a member. Our minority leader raised objections to that because that was alien to our standing orders, not even only in this current Parliament, but all the standing orders since independence. And so clearly it was an affront to our rules.
And you mentioned that as one of the reasons why the minority on that committee boycotted.
Yeah, so we even walked out of Parliament first before the case was even finally sent to the plenary, to the committee. The other point we also felt was that in as much as Parliament has a constitutional rule to approve all international financial and economic agreements in which government of Ghana is a party, after it does that, basically the agreement then falls within the remit of the parties that are involved in that particular agreement. And in this case, it is the government of Ghana, that's the executive, represented by the executive, and the party, which is Ameri. And so Parliament in itself, what the lawyers, they call it a functus officio. Yeah. Is that not it? You don't have any role to play in that. So we felt that an attempt by Parliament to come back to rescind that decision was in itself at variance with practice. And indeed, and I just, with your permission, I just want to read some part. There was a case over the Ake case,
Right, you did mention that, but we will definitely go into that bit about whether Parliament can actually on its own attempt to do that. Yeah. But still on the procedural issue, I just want to quickly bring this before I move to the others. There are those who are asking that, yes, assuming without admitting that there was that breach of procedure, should that, the quest to ensure that there's compliance with the rules supersede the quest for, what the majority of Ghanaians are asking, that was there value for money, that inquisition? Should we, hold on to, if you like, procedural restrictions or difficulties at the expense of their ultimate, good, which is, let's probe this and ensure, whether or not we ought to perhaps go back to the table to renegotiate with Ameri?
The very reason why the people of Bongo voted for me, or maybe his constituency voted for him, was that we're supposed to be there to make laws. And when you have laws, you enact laws, you are supposed to follow them. You don't do them just for the purposes of just enacting.
You know why this question, I'm smiling at this? Because in recent times we've heard people
coming.
from your side say laws are not to be enforced.
I'm coming. I'm going to make
and
a
all
point.
of that. So it's quite.
Besides that,
yes.
Besides that, see,
I'm sure we'll come back.
We'll definitely come.
in the course of this today's discussion, we'll come back.
But quickly, yes.
I know where you are going. I know that George is excited about it, because we'll come to, and there I will have my take on that.
Yes.
But see, so that is one aspect. The other aspect is that we just did not look at just one aspect, the issue of the procedure. We also looked at certain rulings in the Supreme Court that we felt that we needed to adhere to. So combining these two things, we felt that it was just improper. And what even made things worse was that if in the course of what Mr. Speaker was doing, he had recognized our minority, there's a reason why the sitting arrangement is what it is in Parliament. Me, as a first-timer, I am seated back.
Somewhere way in the back.
My leader sits closest to the Speaker. Says that when he gets up, he catches the eye of the Speaker. It is for that reason that the sitting arrangement is done the way it's done. When even the minority leader decided to draw Mr. Speaker's attention to the fact that there was a bad precedent being set in Parliament, he was ignored. When he got up, he was ignored. And so, on the basis of that, there was no room even created for us to, even discuss the procedure. That's the first thing. And I remember when we were on recess.
You need to
yes, just on the same thing. When we were on recess, it so happened that we were called, the Mines and Energy Committee was called. And then we were summoned for a meeting. We didn't even know that it was the Ameri issue. So when we got there, they told us that it was based on the referral brought by Mr. Speaker to us to look at. We still raised the same issue. And what the majority leader, who is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee, indicated was that in as much as we do know that what we did was alien to our procedure, the reason why Mr. Speaker did that was because before that day, Parliament, the activities of Parliament had become so rancorous. You remember we had some issues and other things became so rancorous that he did not want, and that was the day we're closing, we're rising. That was the same day we're rising. That he did not want us to rise on a bad note, because definitely this was going to bring some heated debate. If that was the reason, why did you not allow the minority leader to make the point, and you indicate that this is the reason why you do not want us to have that discussion?
Very well.
And so for us, it is not just about the procedure, but also about Supreme Court rulings and even the respect.
Which, in your opinion, bars Parliament from going back on its own to do that? Okay, quickly. Let me move to Honourable George under here. So the alleged breach of procedure, if you like, notwithstanding, the Mines and Energy Committee is still working, and it's hearing, people come before it and all of that. Question is, what is Parliament seeking to achieve with this process? So it's a fact-finding exercise they're undertaking. Definitely at the end of it, they're going to conclude, put together a report, submit it, and perhaps there'll be some recommendations. What is the plan, the outcome, the expected outcome of this?
Thank you very much, Abna, and good morning to your viewers once again. And of course, my co-panelist. I think we should establish one fact, that in all this, it's only a court of competent jurisdiction that has the capacity to determine if the deal was a bad deal and if the deal should be cancelled or the deal should continue. Parliament hasn't got that mandate to do that. So I think the point that the minority is making is a bit moot in that respect.
So then what is Parliament doing?
Okay. And I'm aware that government is taking steps to go through the right process. There is some amount of evidence out there that seems to suggest that this deal is not the best deal in terms of value for money, in terms of the person who or the entity that contracted with government subcontracting with somebody else, and there's a big amount of money that is left on the table for a third party. And some people have been referring to this as the Wyoming kind of deal. And I'm making reference to some people, and I put the Wyoming in quotes. I do recognize the fact that we have rules that govern the proceedings of what happens in the House. And my very good friend knows that there are rules that govern how Mr. Speaker is approached. I'm very surprised that he will sit on this platform and openly be suggesting that Mr. Speaker conducted himself that day. It's a very serious matter as a parliamentarian. There's a way that if you feel that he has misconducted himself, there's a way that you should put your case across. But to sit here and to suggest that Mr. Speaker conducted himself is a serious matter. I believe that Mr. Speaker has a right to determine whether a motion should be debated at that time or it should be sent to the parliamentary committee that has expertise and capacity to do their preliminary investigations or discussions and then bring a report to Parliament for Parliament to debate that subject matter. And I'm not in the head of Mr. Speaker, but from the way that he conducted the proceedings that day, that seems to suggest, to me, that was the direction that he was towing.
But quickly, just for the benefit of all, you have the standing orders that
Yes.
guides the
Yes.
activities in Parliament. Question is that how motions are dealt with? That when it's seconded, it moves directly or it's directed to the committee level, or there is that deliberation within
it may not be the norm, okay, but I do not believe that it is out of the Speaker's control to regulate it and to refer a subject to a parliamentary subcommittee if in his wisdom he believes that there will be much more value coming to the debate if that is done. Now, you were asking what is Parliament trying to seek, and you have said in one of your opening statements that majority of Ghanaians may feel like this is not a good deal, and then they may feel like there is not value for money. And so when we have a number of parliamentarians that have the right expertise in this subject matter, and some of them have significant institutional memory, and they have further insights on this matter, it doesn't spoil anything for the Energy and Mines Committee to look into the matter and thereafter submit their report to Parliament. Now, as parliamentarians, we are responsible for putting the executive in check. We also have a responsibility to understand what goes into certain decisions by the executive and to make sure that at the end of the day, Ghana is getting the best arrangement for our future development. And I think this is a clear case that for us on the majority side, we believe that Ghana could have gotten something better than what it is, than the arrangement that we currently have. But let me end with the point that it is only a court of competent jurisdiction that can decide that this deal or this contract should be cancelled. Whatever Parliament is doing is a probe. Whatever Parliament is doing is getting better insights into the matter. Whatever Parliament is doing is finding the merits of the motion that Honourable Katie Hammond has submitted to Parliament. And I think that it's a good thing. It's a process. It's rather unfortunate that our good friends on the other side, the minority, decided to boycott the proceedings of the subcommittee. Right. But hopefully there's a quorum that is there that is working, and they're making some progress. I'm sure that we'll get into the actual case later.
We'll definitely get into all of those. Yes, but let me go to Nana now here on this issue. Mr. Anda raised the issue about, the court being the only forum to determine whether or not this agreement should be rescinded or whatever. But there is also the opportunity for the parties themselves to go back to the drawing table if they were to renegotiate, isn't there? Just take note of that. But also another issue I'd want you to look at is within the same context of looking at a possibility of renegotiation, I'd want us to bring in the Mr. Philip Addison Committee report, because that report is in existence. The executive commissioned that committee to look into the Ameri deal. They came up with a report, and among recommendations, many recommendations in that report was that there should be, perhaps, the government was advised to renegotiate that, the 510 million power deal. So my question is, looking at what we have there in terms of the Mr. Philip Addison Committee reports, Mr. Anda is referring to a possible report that is going to come out from Parliament. What are we to do, or how do we manage these two parallel systems that will be churning out, or that one has actually churned out a report already, the other is likely to churn out a report very soon? How do we deal with it?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your cherished viewers. But before I proceed in answering your question, I would like to aid the earlier discussion by making reference to the Constitution. Article 106, Clause 4 of the Constitution says as follows in terms of how Parliament makes its laws. Whenever a bill is read the first time in Parliament, it shall be referred to the appropriate committee appointed under Article 103 of this Constitution, which shall examine the bill in detail and make all the inquiries in relation to it as the committee considers expedient or necessary. And so this is the provision of the Constitution.
But this is a bill. Okay. Would you liken that to a motion? That was
the need for a debate on the floor of Parliament when it is first read, I believe, is in their standing orders. Yeah. That is the rules of Parliament in terms of procedure. And you agree with me that Parliament is the master of its own rules. And therefore, I don't think that this should be something that should be considered a tornado on the floor of Parliament, where, for instance, we consider that the issue at stake is of national interest. This whole Ameri deal, as we have already discussed, I mean, prior to even the agreement being executed by the government of Ghana, that the government's attention was drawn to the fact that we can get something better on the market. Nonetheless, it went ahead. The issues does not seem to be dying anytime soon. So we need to find a way to address it. Now, that brings me to the way forward. Now, if it ought to be addressed, does it really matter procedural breaches? I mean, we go to Parliament to find solutions. So
you are for procedural breach in the interest of...
No, I'm saying that
you don't
have to breach procedure. But even if it happens, I believe that we can find a better way to resolve it, instead of boycotting, going out of Parliament, and so on and so forth. If it so happens, then it means that we have taken a stand in the interest of a section of the people, not that of the nation.
What are those? What about what they are saying, that they are seeking to ensure that the right thing is done?
I say that there can be a way. You can build consensus. In Parliament, they build consensus all the time. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to things that relates to the interest of parliamentarians, they find a way to build consensus. So when it comes to national interest, I believe they should be able to find a way to build consensus. They don't walk away. They don't walk out of Parliament when there's disagreement over the emolument. They don't walk out of Parliament when there's disagreement over so many issues, which is in their personal interest. So why should they walk away out of Parliament when it concerns the nation? Is it true that we are getting value for money? I mean, the evidence out there is abundant that we are not getting value for money. Whether you want to look at the existing pricing system of other facilities to say that even if this one is cheaper, it doesn't matter.
Well, they on the other side are also saying that they are making, gains for the country in terms of tariff, the kilowatts per hour charges and all of that.
They are looking at it in terms of existing facilities in this country. We are looking at the price of the facility on the international market. You don't compare it to existing facilities. If I want to buy Belacqua in Ghana, I wouldn't say that Voltic is cheaper. I wouldn't say other water products or brands on the market are cheaper. How much is Belacqua sold on the market? If I've bought Belacqua for 10 Ghana cedis and Belacqua is 1 Ghana cedis on the market, I'm not getting value for money. So we must compare the price of Belacqua at Ajua Mansa shop to Belacqua on Kweku Mensa shop, and not Belacqua to Voltic or any other brand. That is what we need to appreciate. Now, what Parliament is doing, the fundamental question for me is to what end? And that is very crucial. To what end? To what end? Now, first and foremost, we all know that under Article 185, there's a procedure for negotiating, approving, and execution of such agreements.
1815.
Yes, 1815 for such agreements. The agreement, as far as we are concerned, has left Parliament. The executive has executed it. And so, therefore, now the agreement, as you rightly put out, is between the Republic of Ghana as a party, on the other hand, and Ameri as an entity, of the other hand. Now, whatever Parliament is doing, whatever inquisition it intends making, I want to believe should lead us to the point where we should be able to get a solution to whatever challenge we have in terms of the agreement. But I don't foresee that coming from Parliament. Even if you come to that conclusion, the executive would have to take it upon themselves to either renegotiate or go to court to rescind on the basis of fraudulent misrepresentation or some fraud of some sort in the agreement. And therefore, whatever Parliament is doing, I don't see how that is going to be different from the committee that the executive itself commissioned. That is the Philip Anderson's committee. They have come out to their findings. I think it's been in excess of 5 months since they came out to their findings. We don't seem to know where the executive is heading towards. We don't even know whether it is a strategy that the executive wants to use Parliament to get, as it were, more support so that they can carry it along. But be that as this may, if you did not believe in the Philip Anderson's committee, there was no need commissioning it in the first place.
And you're saying this because you think the government should have acted on the committee report by now?
I believe so. I think that the evidence on the market is just abundant that this deal is not a good deal.
But you see, one thing that strikes me here is that you in your statement or in your submission right now, you're saying that you don't think what Parliament is doing is going to, the outcome is going to be any different from the committee's report, which, yes, perhaps that may be the case. But I see a risk here or a danger in the sense that what happens if Parliament finds contradictory, evidence to what the Mr. Philip Anderson committee found? It raises inconsistencies. And again, assuming they find the same thing, then the question is, so why did we sit with the Philip Anderson committee report for so long and not trigger?
Can I?
Okay, please, yes. Then I go to Mr. Jackson.
I think that the executive have a way that they are working, and I'm not sure that whatever it is that they are doing, everybody knows what it is. But we all know that Honorable Katie Hammond's motion was informed by the work of the Philip Addison Committee. So I'm not sure when we say that what was the use in doing that or going through that committee. I'm not too sure that it really is right, because there's evidence that the Philip Addison Committee found out that seemed to have made Katie Hammond believe that he didn't have the right information at the time that he was participating in the debate at that time. And so in the light of new information, Katie Hammond decides that, nah, I was misinformed, or I took a decision based on the wrong information. Now, I'm sorry that I'm sounding like an old broken record, but I want to repeat that it's only a court of competent jurisdiction that can review or reverse this contract.
So if that's the case, why is it? Because
so the government in building its the executive in building its evidence, okay, may want to be assurance double sure.
So you're going. So in other words, the committee report, you are doubting it.
Can I land, please? The government or the executive, okay, has some evidence. The executive believe that Parliament also have some capacity, okay, that the information that will come out from Cabinet could further be used to inform the direction of the executive. So there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, His Excellency the President is a seasoned lawyer, okay, and we are going through a proper process to make sure that we are not going to take a wrong decision. So please bear with us. I mean, democracy is expensive. Democracy is patient, but we are doing the right thing. Okay. So on the flip side, so in the unlikely event that Parliament comes out with evidence that suggests that no, Philip Addison's committee didn't have the right information, but I mean, it was a good deal. Of course, it will inform the direction that the executive would take. If Parliament comes out with a report that seems to suggest that Philip Addison's information is credible, it will also inform the direction that the executive would take, ultimately in presenting its case to a court of competent jurisdiction. So we should understand the process.
Very well. I will go to Mr. Joe Jackson.
Yeah, but just I mean, I've realized that there are a few things that people have raised.
Quickly,
and it is
and
important to put them in the right perspective. You see, first and foremost, I think that the point must be made clearly here that the minority, or for that matter, whoever is involved, those who are against the procedure, the process that is going in Parliament, is against any further investigation into this deal. Nobody is against it. And indeed, in our public utterances, and even a statement that the minority issued after we walked out of the committee's term, indicated that they were all for government going in to investigate that if they felt that they had some evidence that was that made the current deal look terrible. So we have no problem with that. It's just the procedure. Secondly, it must be made clear that Katie Hammond's motion is not based on the contract itself. It's based on an EPC contract between the Ameri and the EPC contract.
But which still raises issues about the whole deal.
And you see, it is important.
But you know what?
Excuse me. Let me make my point.
Sure. But I need to go to Mr. Jackson because he hasn't spoken.
So let me just conclude on this point. It is important that you, all of us here, in educating people, that all thermal plants in Ghana and in the sub-region have always had an EPC contractor. That is different from the main contract that you have with the developer. And so
but it still goes to give
when my brother says that there is this evidence abundant there, and nobody knows what evidence they are talking about, the only evidence we know is the value for money audit that was done by PwC. And the PwC evidence clearly suggests that we had value for money. That is a renowned institution.
But you're talking about PwC.
When you say evidence around there and you don't question the person, what is the evidence you are talking about?
Mr. Bauer,
is it a hearsay?
No. I think quickly to Mr. Joe Jackson. Before this deal was even, yes. Gentlemen, please, we are having, let's not, but a meeting within a meeting cannot work, so please, yes.
I'm helping you moderate them.
So see, now I lost my train of thought actually on that, but let me go quickly to Mr. Joe Jackson here. Your thoughts on all this that is happening?
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. and to your listeners and viewers. But for me, it's interesting to sit outside and watch this debate go on. And you know what this debate tells us? That consistently, as somebody who's outside Parliament, we think Parliament is out of touch with what we feel as a people. What do we feel? We feel that there's evidence on the table that somebody has chopped 150 million, which is not, it's not illegal, but it seems to be excessive.
Which raises the issue about value for money.
I'm coming. One step at a time. Then, what do we hear? Some parliamentarian says, let's review what we have done already. Outside what has happened with the executive, who has come out with a report. Then we hear Parliament go up and down. Our procedures are not right. This is not right. You know, I'm just telling you how it looks like from somebody who's outside Parliament. So that you guys, are you out of touch with what the reality is in this country? That there's evidence out there that somebody has taken 115 million, which is excessive. No. It's part of the Philippine.
Allow him.
Have you challenged the basis of the Addison report? But hold on. This is the issue I have.
And that's what they can proceed.
And then we hear these arguments about, but the tariff is lower than it should. I ask myself, okay, if you go out to town to get something for me, and you take a cut off the top, and then which I will consider excessive, and then you come back and tell, but it's cheaper than what you have already. It's a moot point. It's and forgive me, it's a moot point. All we hear is, so we're asking ourselves, and I like your calculation, because you better make that calculation well known to the people of Ghana, because we don't hear it, that you are all for strongly investigating and making sure that this thing is not somebody's, it's not some money that is being cooked up and chopped. But and I'm telling you what from the outside, on procedure, we are backed out. We've walked up. Yes, are you there to protect my interest? And how does walking out protect my interest? How does walking out ensure that this thing is debated in a sane manner? If you have a protest against the process, by all means, let that protest be known to the speaker. But by walking out, how does that help me as somebody who voted you into place? How does that help me believe that you are protecting my interest? Especially in the light of the fact that this is an issue where my sense is that somebody's chopped my money. I don't know whether it is true or not. It is an allegation. But there's an allegation on the table. That allegation for the people of Ghana, 150 million, is a significant sum of money. Is that illegal? Maybe not. Is it excessive? From where we sit, that's a lot of money.
And it raises issue, you're asking whether it's illegal or not. Obviously, it's not illegal because it was agreed by the parties. The question is, what did the leaders at the time think in terms of, moving forward with this as an agreement and the interest of the nation, perhaps?
I'll move this up one notch. Today, I read on the paper, I read online, and I'm not sure whether it's, you have to be careful about fake news, etc. But that the head of the, Katie Hammond himself, says that he didn't do any investigation over the matter.
The who? The head? You're saying the...
He was the head of the committee. He was part of the committee.
He was a member, yes.
He was a member of the committee. And this morning he says, and this is information that has come to him after. I'm asking, but again, reinforcing the fact that in Parliament, maybe we don't know what is happening. But when somebody says you're on the committee and you tell me that, there was a matter before the committee. I didn't do any personal investigation. What was brought was what I looked at. It is today, on the light of new evidence. I'm like, are you guys for real? Why are you there? You're there to protect me. And so don't tell me about walking out. With all due respect, Don't tell me about walking out. Protect my interests.
But sir, you know that you didn't vote for me to just start doing some Rambo style, taking people's jobs.
No, I agree with you, but don't let the rules.
You agree with him or what?
I agree with that. That's
Hold on. One after the other, please, gentlemen. One after the other.
And I'm making
we can't be talking about each other.
And this is from an outsider to the minority. That this thing, something seems to be wrong to us. Why does it seem wrong? It seems wrong because we have an issue where somebody seems to have chopped some money. We have an issue even with the person who comes up to say, maybe I didn't do all the investigation I should have done. But well and good. The semblance of what we are getting is this, that you are more hung up in getting your rules and procedures complied with. We have no problem. But please, as you comply with your rules and procedures which you made, which you follow, make sure that does not supersede
the interest of Ghanaians.
The interest of Ghanaians.
Yes. Go ahead.
Consistently, I hear this thing. Evidence there, suggest. Evidence there, this. And nobody's telling me what is the evidence.
Well, for starters, there's the Philip Addison Committee report.
Have you read that report?
Which did thorough work.
Have you read that report?
I need not read the entire thing.
So
but
that's the point I'm making.
They have put out a report.
I have a question.
Just a minute.
Was there a $150 million difference?
Nobody has denied that as of yet.
Execution and collecting the contract. If today, and is that okay Chobo or over the board Chobo?
But let Honorable land and then I go. Let Honorable Barland. Yes, please.
They back your question.
He was on his. Yes, please go on with your question.
Let me make my point. You see, the impression is created out there that look, we took some 550, and that's what you're talking about. 510. I'm talking about your tariff issue you came with. We took some $510 million and went and purchased or got a 250 megawatts plant installed for Ghana. That is not it. What we did was to ask a developer to develop, to get for us a 250 megawatts plant, and that we're going to pay for it over 5 years using tariff. So the simple logic you will ask yourself, if tariff is the basis for which we will pay this, and that for the 5 years that we are paying the tariff that we are paying now, it is cheaper than existing ones, why do you tell me that the cumulative value, particularly when you are looking at the fact that all tariffs have in them capital recovery charge?
Honorable, let me ask this question. Honorable, let me ask this question. Honorable, just a minute.
So the question,
Mr. Jackson, please
let me just conclude.
Quickly, no, but I have a question. No.
Let me just conclude and you make your please.
In a second.
No, please. Let me conclude. Please. Yes. So the only basis that I can make an argument is based on a scientific investigation as to whether Ghana got value for money. That is it. The Philip Addison's committee was seeking to do that. The PricewaterhouseCoopers report, audit report, that was commissioned by the state to investigate, also came out with a report. For me, if I see today, PricewaterhouseCoopers has a better capacity than the Philip Addison's committee.
Let's not even talk about PricewaterhouseCoopers.
So on the today you don't want PricewaterhouseCoopers.
You're done.
Today you don't want that.
No, just a minute.
Today you don't want that.
No, just a minute. Allow me, please. I am saying, you make reference to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and of course, we do know what has happened internationally with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Particularly with the South African situation.
So you're putting a question mark on their
exactly. Just a minute.
And you think that
gentlemen, please allow me. Gentlemen. No, gentlemen. Just a minute. Honorable under. Relax. Honorable Bauer.
Doing that.
No. Gentlemen, you are talking over your head. Nobody is listening.
We are not a party to that.
You are talking over your head. No.
A party to that.
Honorable Bauer.
go, how can a third party go?
No, but honestly, Honorable Edward Bauer, just a minute. Honorable, just a minute. Let's have some order here. Let's have some order. Gentlemen, please, let's have some order here. Nobody's hearing you. Nobody is hearing you. We would have to go on a break then. We would have to go on a break if you are not going to comply with my respective orders here, please. Just a minute. Ground rules. Let's have one person speak and then the other person will speak. Otherwise, no, but you're not, and nobody's hearing you. Nobody's hearing you. So please, let's have that. Nana, carry on, yes. And the thing about the PwC, I mean, it should be put out there, yes.
You know, I think this is not fair to me. You guys, I kept quiet. I didn't utter a word. Listen to all of you go up.
I tried to follow you.
Yes,
right.
When it's my turn, everybody
jumps on you.
I hadn't concluded. Answer your question.
I think we'll take a break at this point, and then we'll come back to continue with this discussion. You're watching NewDay Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to NewDay Saturday edition. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, and on our Facebook page at TV3 News, also on 3news.com. I'll be going back to the panel in a moment, but let me take some messages from our audience. Now, this is coming in from AU Farouk and Tamale. He says, good morning to you, Abna, and to your panelists. There's something dodgy about the Ameri deal. This government is hiding the state. I'm not sure what that is, but he says the minority boycott is a step in the right direction. Government must be clear on the deal. Aziz Donla in Wa says the decision by the minority to boycott the proceedings with regards to the Ameri deal is in accordance with their standing orders, and I personally commend them for that bold step. Nevertheless, if the current government has any case in the dealing of this 250 megawatts energy power deal, they should proceed to court and stop this approach. Sir Stone in Kumasi says the Ameri deal is the most stinking deal in West Africa's political history. The roads we've seen under the previous government will forever linger in our hearts. People must be put behind bars for this obnoxious malfeasance. And Aaron Babako says, Parliament only acts based on constitutional rules. They are people appointed by the people through a voting process to amend or come out with bills. The voice of Parliament is considered as the voice of the people, and the voice of the people is what the President must listen to or must respect. Ernest in Agunas Radio says the minority should not fight for those FM stations. Okay, you are preempting our discussion there, because majority of these FM stations were sabotaging President Bahama. God being so good, this is their end result. Okay, so that's your theory. Good morning, Abna. Did the Ameri deal pass through Parliament before it was approved? Was Honorable Katie Hammond there when the deal was passed? He should rather explain things about the deal ship. And this is Kabis in New Edubias. Indeed, Honorable Katie Hammond at the time seconded the motion to approve it. So that's as far as Honorable Katie Hammond's role in respect of the Ameri deal went. But I go back to Mr. Jackson. You were lamenting that I hadn't allowed you to. So please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
No, the question I was asking was that, is there any debate that there was $150 million between the person who raised the money, built the plant, got it running, and the price which we will finally pay? There's a differential. And is that differential fair? That's the. I don't expect you to answer whether it's fair or not, but at least to answer that it's a fact. There's 150. And in any case, telling us that the tariff is cheaper makes me wonder that could it have been even cheaper if the differential was not as big as $150 million. And that's the challenge that we face outside. The rules are there. Follow your rules. Sort it out. But please, protect our interest.
Right. So, you want to respond?
Yes. So if you look at that, if you were to look at the, and I use the word cost per kilowatt installed, and you compare Ameri to all other plants in the SAT region. Let me make my point. You want me? Let me. Can I make my point? 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 If we were to look at it from that, you have an average of about $1,593 per kilowatt hour in terms of cost. So on the average, Ameri is competitive. The question you ask, could we have gotten something better or cheaper? That's
if the 550 million hadn't been in there in the differential.
Now, you are assuming that the differential that is being put out there is right. So on the basis of that, you tend to ask me this question. And I'm just saying that,
I don't think there's been a categorical denial about that 150. Even in your piece, there was nothing about a denial.
Let me make my point.
That is a fact. I think that is a fact we need to appreciate.
This area is Skanda, am I right?
Yes, Skanda.
This area is Skanda. If I were to come to say that I want to put up a building, this building with the same features in an adjacent property, maybe plot, I will want to look at what is the market price for it. If you look at the current deal that we had three options. Government of Ghana had three options. There were two that were cheaper. One had to do, if you wanted to buy an outright purchase, we needed to cough out $477 million. If we were supposed to do...
Okay, so we are comparing, if you're comparing what we have now with a possibility of looking for an outright purchase, that would be, apples and oranges. Let's look at the situation where it is what it is with the Ameri deal.
That's the point I'm making. So you realize that, but outright purchase we couldn't because we didn't even have the money.
No,
I'm coming.
Let's address one issue.
Yes.
Is there any evidence?
There's no evidence as you speak now that you can install a 250 megawatts plant with 360 million. There's no evidence as we speak today.
But can I make
my point? If you were to include civil works, balance of plants, and all other things, you would not get 360 for 250 megawatts plant. The latest being what President Akufo-Addo commissioned, the early plant, that power plant that came. The figure there should tell you clearly that if you were to go to the market today, over the envelope price for putting 250 megawatts plant in place to operate, you can't get $360 million. If that's the question, let me say that.
Quickly, Mr. Jackson, and then I come to Nana here.
Why? Simply because my understanding is this: the person who got the deal and the person who did all the work, including raising the finance, delivered at the price which you dispute.
Exactly.
But let's agree to disagree.
So we move on.
You think so? That's fine. But I assure you,
give me an example. And that's what I always say.
My example is on the table.
What's the example?
My example is on the table.
Is it the case that the Turkish company PPR,
which is the EPC contractor,
yes, at the cost of 360 million, because that's what is out there.
That's what is out there.
And nobody has denied that.
Nobody has denied that. Did they raise the finance? Yes. Did they do the development? Yes. Did they operate it?
Yes.
So what are we talking about?
Operate what?
I think we need to move the conversation further. We can't be going back and forth.
I've indicated that.
Let's agree to disagree.
Exactly, and then we move on.
If you put up a plant this way, the plant in itself, to have a whole plant working and functioning very well in your grid, you need something more than just installing it. And that's what I've indicated. From the issues of cost of financing, to the issue of balance of plant, to the issue of even your O&M, that's operations and maintenance, you put all these things together in the package. So you don't get up and tell me.
That is not the 150 we are discussing. The 150 is just the...
You're talking about the 150, you have no evidence that was a top-up.
So, I know, but I think you've said enough. Let me move to Nana.
You see, he's been telling us to go to court. If you look at what Katie Hammond has, he has a document, an unsigned EPC contract, supposed EPC contract, between PPR of Turkey and, Ameri. Ordinarily, there's no place, and that was the point Comrade Donko was making yesterday, even to the committee. Said that, look at all developers. developers, because the contract between government of Ghana and them is to develop that, is to deliver that particular plan. All developer, whether it is in the oil industry, they will always outsource the EPC contract to somebody else because they may have a specialty in doing those things. As to how I find my financing to do that is also another thing. You are indicating that the financing and the this came from the same company. That is the argument you are making. And on the basis of that, there was a top-up of 150 million. The question is this. You need to look at there's always a benchmark you rely on in industry.
No, but the question is, Honorable Bawa, we need to move on.
Look,
I think we need to bring the submission to an end, please.
The point I'm making is
that we
have not.
Don't turn your back to her.
Oh, sorry. See, the plant, because he asked me the question, the plant we have today, 250. If you sit down, unless we are assuming that all the thermal plants we have had, and all the thermal plants we are getting after that, because Amandi has not come on board, Sun Power has not come on board, Early Power, which the president came and did, was even just commissioned recently. That all those ones are rip-off. If you agree that they are all rip-off, then that's the basis for which you say Ameri is this.
But what's the basis for saying that those are rip-off? Because there's no report out there
to say that
yes,
that
those are rip-off.
No, the only way you can do is then to make a comparison of the plant with the existing plant and see on the basis of the cost to Ghana, what is the difference? It is that comparison that the PricewaterhouseCoopers did and came out with the figures that Ameri was competitive.
Very well.
So what do I say again beyond that?
Nana, please, you have the floor.
See, if you say that is the basis upon which Pricewaterhouse came to that conclusion, then without even more, that is to say, seeing a Pricewaterhouse report, then I find...
I can volunteer that to you.
I say that if that is the basis, then I find their report quite problematic.
Why?
But how can you compare one plant to... we've used various examples, and for me, the easiest or the simplest is for you to say that because Apple sells iPad tablets at a certain figure, and I'm getting a Samsung tablet at a cheaper figure, then Samsung is better. Tell me that this company sells Samsung the same price.
That's the point.
And therefore, that's not the point you're making. You are saying that
they compared those things to plants. 10 plants in Ghana. 10 plants in Ghana.
10 different plants in Ghana. Yes. How can you?
So what is it? So how do you do the comparison?
I think what essentially is being said is this.
Yes.
You are comparing different, they're the same, maybe thermal plants, but in terms of their constitution,
in terms of make,
make and all, they're different. And so comparing them,
in terms of
it's a bit problematic.
It's from different
but we need
entities.
to move on. Question. How do we, for me, I still go back to this executive thing and then the parliament.
It is even in the interest. Look, I've heard a debate. Previously, my position was that what Parliament was undertaken for me was to what do you call it? Was to know we're not going to see any beneficial end to it.
And
I'll prophesy
that is going to happen.
Bipartisan support or what? Was that what perhaps?
But I'm coming. I was referring to no beneficial end to it on the basis that if indeed we have got evidence by way of the Philip Addison's committee, why don't you go to court? Now, but I've listened to the debate, and I think that the parliamentary inquiry is necessary at this point.
Thank you.
It's necessary at this point because he's made reference to the Pricewaterhouse report, which for me, from what he tells me, even without seeing the report, at the
you are questioning
I'm questioning it. And I'm questioning it also because now we have evidence that reports from such international professional bodies are not sacrosanct.
So will you Philip Addison's one?
Will you allow me to finish? Now Philip Addison's report has also been questioned by the minority. Now, there can never be a better bipartisan inquiry into this than Parliament.
But you don't have bipartisan inquiry going on in Parliament now. So it's turning out to be one-sided.
Yes, so
but I think
that. If the minority would join for us to have a bipartisan inquiry, I think it is the best because you see, it is even in the, it is even in the interest of the minority to do that. Look. Now the popular view in this country is that we've been shortchanged. We've been shortchanged.
That's why you told. I don't know where you got that from.
Look,
is he? The point is,
please.
They are the only ones. They are the only ones. The minority. Look, we've got civil society groups like Imani. Look, I've listened to somebody like Bryce Simmons. He's done a lot of education on this. I've gone on the net and read about it.
There's ASAP reports.
There's also ASAP report. The only people who are protecting this is the minority who went to execute the agreement. Why? We want to know. So why don't you get involved in a bipartisan committee so that you can even be cleared and say, yes, we told you so. The government was wrong. Why? Why are you running away?
Now, he asked a question. No, about what about bipartisan?
Are you going to answer every question put in here, please? Honorable needs to speak.
They are one position and I have a different position.
No.
So it's only fair.
No, gentlemen, please.
The Addison's committee. The Addison's committee.
The Addison's committee.
Yes, the Addison's committee. Nobody has challenged that. We have said if they have had some findings of wrongdoing, on the basis of that, the executive should go to court. On that.
Well, it's not too late. The executive can go to court.
Why do you want to come again? If you think that you have found something untoward in the course of your investigation, use those bases. Go to court and say that there was a misrepresentation. So you are asking for an annulment or variation of the contract.
Thank you very much, Honorable
Go to court. That's all you have asked. If you think that they reported, why are you coming back to Parliament?
Very well. I think you've made this point severally on the show this morning, so it's well taken. But we go back to the need for bipartisanship moving forward in this regard. You don't think it's essential that we get that? There you go.
Okay.
Honorable Anda.
Thank you very much. I think there's something that is clear from this debate. Okay, everybody else is wrong, and only one person is right. The viewers themselves will determine whether that is the right thing to do. I have said, and again, I'm repeating, that it's only a court of competent jurisdiction that can review or cancel this contract. However, His Excellency the President is a seasoned engineer, a seasoned lawyer.
He's an engineer now.
Okay, a seasoned lawyer.
Okay.
And he has a competent cabinet team that is working with him. If His Excellency the President and the Executive are aware of the contents of the report of the Philip Addison's team, and still Katie Hammond has passed this motion and the Executive hasn't challenged the decision of Mr. Speaker for the issue to be debated.
But can the Executive?
No. No. You haven't even had a comment on it. If you are saying that you have your evidence, so go to court, and then you think that somebody else is prolonging the process or whatever it is. I mean, you can have some people that will challenge it, that why are we wasting time? But the fact that the Executive are silent, it means that there is additional value that could be gained from the insights or the information that is going to come out. Okay? Now, you may keep on making reference to Pricewaterhouse. I guess that is your fallback position. Okay? But we all know, okay, what some of these institutions have done in other markets. Okay? So let us not be behaving like ostriches. For me, I'm saying that put us to shame. I'm challenging you. Put the Executive to shame. Go to the committee. Let all Ghanaians know that we have wasted their time. Go and present your information that you have. Let Ghanaians come and say, His Excellency Nanado and the MPP. Ooh. Otherwise, where we are going, your matter is not sweet. You are my brother. Hold on.
We need to wrap up on this, so kindly allow him to run.
Hold on. Listen. Listen to the people that voted us into power. Listen to the people that we are supposed to serve. Don't just be looking at what you think is good for your party.
No, this is not bipartisan.
Let us work in a bipartisan way in the best interest of Ghana.
Please. Okay, very well. We're moving on to...
Go to court.
We'll go to court, but we'll go to court with the right evidence.
The appointment of the CID new boss. But before that, I will take some messages from our viewers and listeners. This is, he says, love your show and your panelists. Bongo MP, I love that man a lot. I can't explain why. That is to you, Mr. Bauer. Everyday Ameri deal saga. Why can't we just invest in much more cheaper alternative sources of energy and save some much needed money? That is Gabriel from Odoko. Now, Frank Kwabnedu says, Honorable Bauer has simply lost the debate. He says the Ameri 150 million deal stinks and it's filled with imperfections. I'm not surprised in any way by the actions of the minority. In the midst of the doomsaw, they were thinking and looking for ostentation from Ghanaians and failed to do due diligence on the deal. Okay, now what's the minorities' real problem? Are they boycotting the sittings because of procedural breaches or because they think the deal is sacrosanct? Romeo in Saboba says the minority should know that no problem is ever solved by running away from it. They should stop handling parliamentary issues like a marital issue. Ghanaians voted... Mr. Ander, Ghanaians voted for them to go to Parliament and debate and deal with issues of this sort. They should stop behaving like babies and protect our interests, Romeo and Saboba. I'll text it to him. I'll forward it to him. Alaji Hamza in Pigfarm says, Abna, happy to see you back. If the majority feels it's only the court that can determine the final issue in this deal, then why waste our time? In my opinion, this government is out there to show the NDC that they have the power in their hands. Okay. Thank you for your messages so far. I'll take a break on the messages here and then go to the panel for us to look at another hot topic here, which is the appointment of ACP Mameyatiwa Adodankwa as the new CID boss. So she shares the same name, or she shares his name with the president. So that in itself raised some issues for some people. But well, it's out there that they are not. They are not. So yeah. Well, so so is the okay? The husband side. Okay, that's okay. Nobody knows that there's a relation in that regard. But anyways, we're moving on. So there's been a lot of people who have questioned the appointment of ACP Adodankwa. Now, some have said that it's politically not prudent, and that the executive has a hand in it, even though we know that this appointment is an administrative one within the Ghana Police Service, right? So why would anyone without, more come to this conclusion? I'm just wondering. I'll start with you, Mr. Jackson.
First of all, I don't know first as a fact that they are related, but the names are different. Her name is a surname. Adodankwa is his middle name. The spelling is different. So, off the top of my head, I'm not sure there's any relation. I've even heard someone say that it's her husband's name, not even her name.
So it's a married name.
Yes, so she got the name to married. But that's not the point. The issue is this. I just feel that it wasn't tidy. Not that there was I can't say there's anything wrong. It is an administrative appointment. It's within the police service, and they have a board that governs them, and they can do that. But I just think that it was not a sensitive thing to do, considering all the issues that had arisen around this lady earlier. That's yet to be resolved. So, whilst you can't say it was wrong or it was illegal, I have a challenge with, is this the only person who can occupy this position at this particular time? Could we not have had a more neutral appointment, considering how important the position of head of CID is? And that's my viewpoint.
Right. Now, Honorable Wanda.
Well, I hear my big brother, but I think that
she came into the news recently because of the, the
yes, with the
allegations and all of that.
Yes.
You see, if myself or Honorable Bauer gets into the news for something that we say that we haven't done, and there's no evidence to suggest that we have done what the news is saying that we have done, and because of the fact that somebody goes to put something that we haven't done in the news, we then use that as a basis to challenge how we should progress in life or how we should serve the nation. I think it's most unfair. I think that it has been established, okay, that that recording that was leaked had been doctored.
Has it been established?
As far as I am, as far as, no, she has claimed, no, listen, we all know that it is possible for a recording to be doctored.
Everything is possible in life.
Yes. She has said that that recording has been doctored. I'm not sure that A+, who is supposed to have had that conversation with her, has come out and said that it hasn't been doctored and that this is the evidence. Okay?
So we can safely say that it's not been established.
Hold on. And also, I'm not sure that A+ has come to say that he is the one that is the source of this recording and that this is a conversation that I had with her. So for us to now base her service to Ghana on some kind of allegation, I believe that is most unfair. So that's the first thing that I want to address.
But Honorable, you do know that it was the two of them who had the conversation. There was no third party. So clearly, if there was a recording, it had to be by one of them. And clearly it wasn't.
How can you jump to that conclusion?
There were two of them.
No, please, I beg you. Okay? We live in an age where two people, maybe even one person is talking, the recording can go out. Okay? So please, I'm saying that until such time, for me, as a Ghanaian, until such time that A+ comes to say that this recording that is out there, this is the conversation that I had with this woman, and I can vouch that it hasn't been doctored. Okay? And the police can confirm that this is already, listen, it's very easy to do it. Okay? You can do the voice analysis and you can determine. You understand? And I haven't heard A+ come to challenge that it is the original conversation that they had. Okay? So based on that, that's the point I was making. Based on that, I think it's most unfair to be questioning her progress as far as service to Ghana is concerned. Now, the police service has its structures. Okay? They may take a decision that may not be, you may feel is not well informed.
It's not tied.
That is your opinion.
Yeah, no, yes.
And that's what I want to come to here, Honorable. You're making your points, but aren't you concerned, or isn't the government concerned, or indeed the police service concerned about the perception? Because when it comes to these things, it boils down to perception.
They say if you are going on a journey of 1,000 miles and you turn to pick up stones and throw at every dog that barks at you, you will never get to your destination. We have a lady.
So turn a blind eye.
We have a lady who has served her country, who is acting in a position not yet confirmed, and we are saying that because of some tape outside, some recording outside, that we do not know the source, that we cannot confirm the content, she should not serve her country. Please, I beg you, let us focus on bigger issues. Let us focus on Ameri. Let us focus on delivering free SHS. Let us focus on the one district, one factory. Let us focus on the one district, one warehouse. Okay? Let us focus on the digital addressing system. Let us focus on all these things, the paperless office that His Excellency, the Vice President, has launched at the ports. Let's focus on the good things that are happening to make Ghana work again. Okay, and let us not be distracted by some of these distractions.
But the office of the CID boss is one very important office.
Do you have reason to believe that she's not capable?
Just a minute. Give me a minute.
Let me.
No, but I'm moderating, and I can come in to
go ahead.
steer the
Go ahead.
So
it's
also.
Are they giving your napkin now?
Right.
You're about to fall down.
It's also very important, that office, it gives, indications of a number of things. But also another thing that is important here is, particularly where the outgoing CID boss is, the perception again out there is that he's going because of certain allegations that were made against him, which, again, like you're saying, have not been proven, but he is still being made to go. So there's that also out there. In the same breath that you're saying that there's an unproven allegation against this woman. There is also an unproven allegation against the outgoing person, which is also, you know, people legitimately
with
have
all due
concerns about
respect,
this.
you are a lawyer. I'm not sure that the statement that was given for Honorable Bright Odro proceeding on leave prior to retirement made any reference.
Again, perception.
Why? There are facts there. Why is it that
again the perception?
When you were, I started my narration, I said you were a lawyer. Okay, there are facts out there. Why are you moving away?
But you're not dealing with lawyers. I mean, the masses.
You don't want me to talk.
No, I want you to talk.
So
I mean, we're engaging.
when Bauer was doing it, he didn't like it.
Okay.
When Bauer was doing it, he didn't like it. Let me talk. Bauer is trying to be good now. We've moved from Ameri. Okay, he has wiped his sweat. Okay, now the air condition has been increased. So,
yes.
Listen, there are facts out there. Why are we moving away from the facts? Okay, and wanting to go into the space of perception? There are two things. I want to focus on the facts of the matter. If you have any facts that are different from the facts that I have, challenge me on that. I'm saying that the facts of the matter is that she's competent enough as far as the police administration is concerned. Okay, she's capable of being in an acting position. There's no evidence to make me feel that she has misconducted herself. Okay, the former Director General of CID, is it a fact that he has reached his retirement age? Is it a fact that he has accumulated leave? If any of these facts are wrong, bring it out and let us debate. But I'm not coming here to come and do propaganda. I mean, perception is the same kind of perception that makes people go and hit a wall. Let us deal with the facts. So let us talk the facts. I've put out the facts. If you want to challenge it, please let us debate based on the facts. Deal?
Carry on.
I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. Let me move on. We have a tape that we'll need to play in respect of the outgoing CID boss, COP Bright Odro. Let's listen to that, and then we come back to the panel.
A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Bright Odro. Now, did you see this as coming?
Thank you, my brother. I did not see anything coming. And just to elaborate a little, I should have proceeded on leave on the 30th of August this year, but I stayed on because nobody was posted there to take my place. And as has been the case of other officers, they used their leave to work. And so I was thinking that I could also use my leave to work up to 3rd January when I would have retired. But that wasn't the case. On the 13th of this month, early morning, I was told by the IGP to hand over and proceed on my leave. And that came as a shock because I had never expected that I would be asked to proceed on leave when I would finally retire on the 3rd. So I began to probe. I asked him why that decision, and he said it was cabinet decision. And so I proceeded to ask a few questions, but he had no answers to provide at the time. Later, I did my own investigations, and I found out that they said there were so many complaints about me, and Japan's tantrums, especially against me, were also responsible for that decision of cabinet, if I may say so. And so really, I wasn't prepared. The decision came as a shock because I have had a remarkable career. I don't think it's good enough for somebody who has done 29 years in the service to be handed something so sudden. I think it's a raw deal.
Now, you mentioned Kennedy Japan. He is a very vociferous politician. He's made very scandalous allegations against you. One of them, the fact that you had been dealing with Langas, your friends. There was a need to clear you out of the system. So, I mean, things will become normal when it comes to land deals. The allegations of you dealing with Langas, did you deal with Langas, and to what extent did you deal with them?
The point is, who are the Langas? Kennedy Japan sit on the radio, sit on, what do you call it, TV, and lambast me for having deals with Langards. He failed to mention one single Langard. The only person that he referred to, I think on Thursday, also was Awala Sarichi. Awala Sarichi I know because he has cases at the CID headquarters.
Your name has been battered. You feel let down. If you do, how do you intend to fight for the reputation you have built over the years?
I think I'm giving you an interview. A lot of the media houses, they have also spoken to me. And I'm laying bare the facts as I know. And I think that will clear me. Because if my accusers, the point is, who are the accusers? It is, they are peddling falsehood over there about me. Who has said that I have done this to him? Who says that I have organized Langards to come and attack him? Who says that Mr. Bratodro has not handled his case well? I don't get it. And I should have been given the opportunity to respond to these complaints and allegations that they claim are there. Where are the complaints? Where are the allegations? Who are behind the allegations? And what investigation did they do to conclude that in the middle of the leave, I should be asked?
Okay, so that was COP Bratodro, outgoing CID boss there, speaking to one of TV3's reporters there. He makes some interesting, comments, and one that jumps at me is the fact that he's talking about the fact that, even though his letter asking him to go did not necessarily state, what people are saying, he has information that Cabinet's decision was based on the allegations by Mr. Kennedy Japan, and which is what I was putting out there. Sorry?
You say he makes a fact that.
I didn't say a fact. I said he makes comments in those things that.
Fact.
About what?
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
I mean, if you heard me, then
the fact he was talking was based on Kennedy Japan's utterances.
that's what he's saying. That it was based on the allegations.
You are saying that
Comments on the fact that Kennedy Japan said.
comments on the fact.
So, Nana, what do you make of that?
First and foremost, I think that I agree that the office of the director of the CID is a very big one that requires someone who is very competent. And until the A+ tape saga came up, I don't think there was any evidence at the time to raise concerns about the ACP Mami Tiwa's competency. And so if we want to rely on the tape to raise doubt about her competency, then we may have to interrogate it very well. You see, as Honorable George Anda said, there is still no dispute about the fact that she claims the tape was doctored. Now, if there is no dispute and then we are going to rely on it, particularly where there hasn't been an inquiry to ascertain the authenticity of it, then we may want to be relying on just mere allegation to deny this woman the opportunity to occupy that office.
Am I hearing from you that perhaps you would maybe recommend an investigation into it?
No, ideally, there should have been an administrative inquiry within the police to establish whether or not there was some, first and foremost, if she was the one, and secondly, if there was wrongdoing by way of that conversation, and not just leave it hanging. In the absence of that, we only have allegation on our hand. Should we use a mere allegation to deny this woman, I think would be unfair to her. That clearly is my position. And you see, it makes me worry that tomorrow, if somebody should stand up and say, I know Nana Bafuiwa, he's a thief. Whether or not it's investigated, it hangs around me. It looks as if that is where we are getting to in this country. That mere allegations are now factual, are now considered to be the gospel. You see,
but when we continually have situations where allegations are not interrogated or probed,
that is why we should be encouraging that in the light of what has
so
happened.
Why aren't we
because
seeing
you see,
that?
the A+ issue itself, I've had my own reservations. I've had my own reservations because there was no point where A+ made allegations of financial impropriety against the two gentlemen. And so, as to what was being investigated, especially where these gentlemen were not working at Kolebu, I have had my own issues in relation to that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that when you look at this woman, the allegation that has been made against her, should we rely on mere allegations? Otherwise, nobody will occupy any position in this country because allegations are thrown out all over the place against politicians, against pastors, against lawyers. I mean, who will get to occupy a position in this country? Going forward, I think that we should be encouraging investigations into allegations to establish them. Right? Failing, if you continue to fail to do all these things, then we would be encouraging such bad precedents all over, and people will be seen in light which they are not deserved to be seen.
But now back to Mr. Jackson's point about it not being tidy, which is, and it's not being it's not tidy because of this whole thing lurking around, and it would be cleared. Exactly.
And the authorities who appointed her also have the power to investigate.
Right. And so for people to make it seem like those raising issues about the allegations are just, ranting and raving.
No.
Not just a minute.
Something in the
no, just a
public
minute.
domain.
And let me land, please.
I can have something that would clarify
No,
this.
but I am in the, again, you make me lose my thought process when, But the point is, I am trying to say that this thing about, rubbishing, if you like, those making suggestions that because of that thing around here, the appointment is a bit untidy, I think we need to look at it critically and, like Nana was suggesting, encourage this thing about investigate and bring matters to closure. Then people are clear in their minds. Otherwise, I believe that people do have, are valid or justified in having certain thoughts about this. But quickly before, then I come to Honorable Bauer here.
Your production team has interviewed one party. You and I that are here, you cannot say that you know for a fact that the police have not carried out an investigation into this. Okay? I can challenge you if you have requested from the police to find out whether they have carried out an investigation and whether they can share a report of this investigation. So let us not sit here and without having a full picture of the narrative, take sides because of the little bit of information.
I think it goes both ways then. It goes both ways. In the same way that you don't want that, then yours too should also be considered.
Can I land?
There's a mismatch.
Can I land? I'm saying that even TV3, you have gone to ask one person, which is back 10. Okay? Why didn't you ask the IGP whether they have carried out an investigation into this allegation, and then come and show us the two sides of the story?
We're talking about
Mr. Jackson, just allow him. Yeah,
Joe,
just allow
listen,
him.
we are talking facts, we are talking doing the right thing, and we are talking about balance. Joe, tomorrow it could be you. No, hold on. Let me land. Tomorrow it could be you. That somebody will go and maybe I'll go and pass some wild allegation about you. TV3 comes to interview me. Okay, I give my side of the story, and everybody will come and say that for Joe Jackson does ABC. Okay, without hearing your side, is that fair?
That's not what we're saying.
No,
what we're saying is that you also, the appointing authority,
has
the power to investigate.
But who
so please investigate and then clear the air for us.
Wait, Joe. With all due respect, has the IGP got to tell every Ghanaian why he has taken a decision?
I think Honorable Land, I think you are misunderstanding the point here, which I'm trying to raise. I'm not saying that we should have conclusive proof from them that this is the situation. But I'm saying in the absence of that, there being that conclusive proof, we shouldn't disregard the concerns that are coming about this, thing that is lurking around here.
Have you gone to
and in the same way, and what I'm saying is, we need not have found out from the IGP of this conclusively. I'm just saying, let's not disregard the concerns being raised. But let me move on to Honorable.
In the spirit of not disregarding, that is why you should have gotten the side of the police.
Honorable Bauer here.
The police have put out a press statement, that they are saying that the person is going on retirement.
But
the person has accumulated leave.
But
you seem to have additional information that seems to suggest that this is not the case. The fair thing and the balanced thing for you to do is to go to the police PRO that this is what you have heard. You've appointed the person as an acting director position. Did this allegation out there inform your decision?
We'll agree to disagree and move on. So, Honorable Bauer, let's hear you on this.
No, thank you very much. I think that my comment would purely be based on what is in the public domain.
And not the facts of the matter.
I don't know who establishes the facts.
I think you can move on.
Carry on, yes.
Yeah. So I'll start first from the policeman that I'm talking of, Bright Oglo. I say that because of the fact that at least for I think about 2-3 years, he was the commander in my region, the regional boss. And so for people from Upper East, we can sympathize with the situation in which he finds himself in. That being said, I think that generally for somebody to go on terminal leave prior to his full retirement is something that is normal. But you realize that you may have to look at certain organizations and what is the convention. From what I'm hearing, from what COP Baitoglu is saying, the convention has always been that you just work and when it's time for retirement, you go on retirement. Indeed, I listened to the former commander for the police service of Greater Accra. I don't know. He has this accent, this foreign accent he speaks. I'm not too sure. Now that's the name I was trying to get from you. Who also indicated that's what normally happens within the police service. But Odro himself says that he has colleagues who are of the same rank with him and age in terms of the police service, who are also due for retirement in January, just as his. So for him to have been asked to go on retirement, and that he was asked to go on retirement without necessarily go or take his accumulated leave, without necessarily giving him reasons for that. He got to know about these things based on the utterances that were made by Honorable Kennedy Japan. So then he decided to go a bit into it. And his question was that if what the man is saying is true, then he was not given a fair hearing, because ordinarily, if you even accuse me that I have killed somebody, one thing you should do is give me the opportunity to say my side of the story before you pass a judgment on me. And that was never offered him. This statement he has made publicly, the police service cannot for a moment say that they have not heard it. As we speak today, they have not provided contrary information to what the man has said on national television. So that is the first part. So if that is the case, and for me, that is what I have no reason to doubt him. If that is what happened, then the man was treated unfairly. That's the first part. But when the man now exists, ordinarily, I'm told he has 2 deputies. So one of the deputies has been brought on to act. It's in an acting position. I'm even told that that position normally you need a DCOP and things like that. You need to go up a bit. The ACP is a bit lower in terms of that. And this was again by a policeman. So she's in an acting position. But who is this person who has been brought there? I think that I'm excited that it's a woman. I don't have a problem with that, because for me, if you are seeing the security services, we have women rising up to those levels, particularly in the office of the CID. It is fantastic. But there's a peculiar problem surrounding this lady who has been put there. There has been allegations about certain things she had done based on the tape that came out. The woman herself, per her response after the tape came out, did not deny that they had a conversation. She only said that the tape had been doctored. She has not provided a contrary conversation for us to know that actually the thing was doctored. So for now, what we have is what we are seeing.
How is she going to provide?
No, so I don't have that. So that's the point I'm making. There's no contrary tape to suggest that this tape was the original and this thing was doctored. The police service in itself, we do not know whether they have even gone ahead to conduct an investigation into this supposed allegation. But for me as a Ghanaian, knowing that this is an office that is supposed to investigate crime, then I have now the acting CID. I like to have been saying that yes, what you came and reported as crime, when we went to Kolebu, what we heard and saw, there's no difference between that and what you alleged. And you still produce a report that seems to be clearing those people. As public, I will have no confidence in that office. So it is about the reasonableness of the appointment. It is not that people are putting a guilty verdict on the woman. Unless the police service is trying to tell us that they have really investigated that and that it was not true. But they have not told us that. All we do know is that the woman was pushed there. I don't know the woman from Adam. I don't know her professional competence. It is very possible that this allegation or this thing was actually doctored, but we don't have a proof to that. So for the sake of transparency and for the sake of even confidence of the public for that office, I think that even if this was an administrative appointment, I think that the police service could have done us a bit better service by ensuring that, okay, because of these things surrounding you, you have another deputy, because there are two deputies. You should be acting, because actually it is an acting position. For all you know, in the next week, they may appoint somebody else. But for the purposes of this thing, and because of what has happened, and because we want to have confidence in this office, this person should act whilst we investigate this. That is where we should have gone. But I have this feeling, you see, the man goes on, I'm talking of Bright Odru, he goes on to not only accuse Kennedy Japan.
We need to take a break, so yes. I will need you to wrap
Kennedy Japan. But he accuses Kandapa as well, and two people behind his removal. And so I think that the minister for, I don't know now these days because of so many appointments, I don't even know whether the police service and the interior and the national security, it's all confused and we don't even know. But whoever...
But the police service is always under the Interior Ministry.
But yeah, that's true. But the truth of the matter is that we also have Minister for National Security.
But they have their business.
Yeah, but we don't know who superintends over what.
I don't think it's that confusing.
It's confusing. And when we come back, we want us to go there, we'll go there. So basically, I think that the IGP, whose own, he is supposed to even be on retirement, and he has been given 2-year extension. And someone has not even gone on retirement. They are saying the person should go on leave. And it's an administrative thing. Meanwhile, you yourself, you have gone beyond even the period in which you are supposed to stay in the service. And you have been given 2 years. Somebody has not even gotten to January to go on retirement. And you say he should go. And you have not...
But the 2 years that he was given was legitimately done. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So he was...
fairness.
Yeah. But anyways,
you are older than me, and you are
will.
still in the service, and you have told me that I should go even before my duty.
Thank you. We need to take a break. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly. This is New Day Saturday edition. Keep watching. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to New Day Saturday edition live on TV3 here in Accra, also live on 3FM 92.7 and on our social media pages, including Facebook. Also, we're on 3news.com and GhanaWeb.com. We'll be wrapping up on the conversation about the CID boss appointment, but I will take some messages and then return to the panel in a jiffy. This is coming in from Alfred Morton Danseman. He says, why will the government promote ACP Ado Dankwa after all these revelations? Is the promotion a reward by government? Too many questions running through my mind. Ifo Newtown from Kumasi says, good morning, Abner and your panelists. Every Ghanaian must be worried about the appointment of Madam Ado, ACP Ado Dankwa to that high-level office as CID boss. It's a dent on the police service as an institution. Al-Hassan Ninch in Jamasi Zongo says, why should ACP Ado Dankwa be appointed while there is so much dust on her? Is someone trying to cover something? And this is coming in from Alfred in UDSNY. He says, someone that was caught with an audio and corruption issue has now been appointed as CID boss. There is a hand in this woman's appointment from the top. This is NPP for you. Good morning to Honorable Bauer. Good morning, Abner. The deputy CID boss is, he says, I'm sorry, I can't go on with this because these are wild allegations you're making in here. Now, A+ challenged ACP Adedankwa to cause his arrest if she thought the tape had been doctored. What sort of affirmation by A+ is Mr. George Anda looking for? Our politics has really been debased. This is Kwapna in Achimota. The appointment of ACP Adedankwa is very grotesque. Her appointment shows conspicuously that this government is not ready to fight corruption. This is Divine Semenyo in Tamale. Sami in Accra says the NPP man should stop throwing dust into our eyes. If the CID woman is claiming that the tape was doctored, why didn't she or the police go after A+? Tomorrow, can they go after another person for doctoring any tapes? We need a more cogent explanation to the issue. I'm very surprised at what is happening in Ghana. Someone who constantly preached during their campaign and shouting rule of law has no regard for the law. The sacking of the CID boss tells us certain substandard group does not understand rule of law in its context. Okay, I think we can pull the brakes on the messages now and return to the panel. Okay, so clearly, I don't know about you, but going through the text messages on this, this is a trend. People clearly concerned. And during the break, I think we're looking at this issue about the need for us to bring closure on allegations that come up. Let me hear you. Okay, Mr. Anda, quickly, and then I come to Nana.
Thank you very much. I think during the break, Edward made a solid point that he has been involved in handling the PR and communications outfit of very respectful institutions. And when some of these things happen, there are steps that proactively the institution should take. I mean, we are here and we are forming opinions because of the information that's available to us. And our opinions, plus, of course, obviously, the text messages that you're reading or the WhatsApp messages that you're reading is being informed by some information that is out there. I think that the police administration have a system challenge that they need to quickly address. And it didn't start from today. I would have expected that by now there would have been a report that is out there, okay, that seems to suggest, or that suggests that indeed they have done their investigative analysis and the voice on that recording that is out there is doctored. I believe that would have made a lot of people much more comfortable with the current situation. Right. But if we take a year back, you do remember the Let My Vote Count demonstration. You do remember that a young man lost his eye on the orders of a commander of a police contingent. We do remember that the Minister of Communications at that time came on air and said it was ketchup. Yeah, you remember? Okay. Did the police come in? Did the police have they done anything to resettle that guy? Okay, so there's a system issue. I think that we should be non-partisan about this issue. Let us put Ghana first. Okay, I know the IGP is a very competent man. Okay, I believe in the IGP, and I will request the IGP to do what is right to let Ghanaians feel much more comfortable in the decisions that they are taking.
Right, and even for me, particularly with this issue, it's even for the ACPT's own good, because you can imagine the kinds of pressure that will be coming onto her in the course of her, performance of her role as CID boss, particularly as this thing is still lingering around. So in the interest of maintaining the sanctity of that office, I think the police should be up and running and do something,
I think they should consult Edward. Edward can give them some pointers. So, free of charge.
Free of charge. Yes.
You see, I think that, when we went to the break, when we went on break, we all seem to have agreed that from ACP, from the former director of CID to ACP, all that is running through are still allegations. Allegations of wrongdoing by the former director, so step aside. We don't know what has really, whether or not it was investigated and there were findings, because some of the allegations against them are public.
Right.
Now, that of the ACP was very much public. It was not just that of the ACP. If you recall, the recruitment scam that hit the police, a certain house arrest within 5 hours, and then subsequently was as if somebody had attempted a mutiny within the police, so they were going to arrest that person, debriefing, and so on and so forth, like a movie. There have been series of them in the past, and they never get investigated. We never get closure. Hence, the conclusion that people have come to that, look, this appointment is untidy. But would she have fault that it wasn't investigated? I mean, if the institution defaults in investigating the matter, should she remain within the police service without getting promotion? We need to be looking at these things very holistically. But then, going forward, I think we need to be very united in our position that there's the need for systemic reforms within the police. Look, some people are saying that you cannot detach the hands of the executive from this appointment. It's also because of what has been seen conventionally perception that the executive tend to control the police. It's not an independent institution. Yes, in terms of appointment of senior officers and so on and so forth, we may want to agree that indeed it's not an independent institution in that regard. But then when you look at how they do things administratively, internally, you cannot say so because you don't see the external hand going into it. And so I think that...
Well, some have suggested that for anybody to say that the executive is not behind this, that person is demonstrating naivety.
Yes.
And that is quite interesting.
Exactly. But you see, now NDC is in opposition. They will oppose everything that goes on so that the government will look back. When MPP goes into opposition, they will do the same thing. Okay? And so we are not getting things improved. Systems are not being reformed. We need to look at our police service again,
right,
and make sure that such things are reformed.
Okay, quickly, did you want to say something? So we wrap up on this and move on to the NCA.
See, I think that one of your viewers sent a text that suggested that, look, there was an allegation that a senior police officer says X. You say it was doctored. The act of even doctoring somebody's conversation and putting it out there in itself is a crime. And so if the police felt so strongly that what the gentleman or whoever put the tape into the media did something that was wrong, and they did not move beyond just saying that it's doctored to wanting to even get the person to really prove or otherwise, in itself gives this whole... adds to this confusion. That is one, and I think I agree with that person. But yes, I don't want for a moment to contradict what my two colleagues said. There's a systemic problem with the police service that has to be reformed. But whilst we try to reform the system. I mean, we can deal with the hanging fruits, and those ones are just the ones that immediate that are with us. How do we ensure that even the various officers that we have, we put some confidence in them so that at least they can work? And I think that if the police officer, you say you have so much confidence in the IGP.
Very much.
I mean, your competence is also informed by the decisions you take and what you do. All those things form that. We think that in this particular one, that decision itself seemed not to be resonating with a lot of Ghanaians, and they should take a second look at that. But also, I agree with George that, look, they must come out and tell us all the various investigations they have been doing. What is the report? What is the status of that report? And let's see how it goes with that.
Very well. Okay, so we can move on to the NCA. We just have about, let's say, 40 minutes to do this, so we will go on to do that. I'll start with you, Mr. Joe Jackson, here on the NCA thing. So 131 FM stations have been sanctioned, either by way of fines or revocation of their licenses. And indeed, there was an uproar. Some have said that what the NCA is doing is an affront to freedom of speech and all of that. But this is clearly a compliance issue. The NCA is only complying or enforcing its laws because this was done pursuant to statute and their regulations. So question is, why the brouhaha about this development?
Honestly, I don't know what they're talking about. I was expecting that by this time somebody will come and show that TV station or media house or radio station A was fined using Formula 1 and another was fined using Formula 2 and or was not even applied at all, and that it was
arbitrarily done.
It was arbitrarily done. Once it wasn't, and nobody has been able to show that, then all you can do is to make noise in your corner, because it doesn't hold any water. I actually sympathize with the NCA. I sympathize with the NCA. The frequencies of this country are a resource to be managed and to be taken care of as carefully as we would for our gold or our oil or our bauxite or whatever. If these stations are on air and are not compliant, they should, in fact, if anything at all, we should be holding the NCA and saying, why have you taken so long to take this action? But this does not stop them from taking the action, right? Anybody who has any complaint, as has been said over and over here today, go to court. But in this case, I sympathize with the NCA, and I'm firmly on their side. I think, you see, too many times, there's a sense that when the rules come against me, I am unhappy with it. When the rules come for me, I stand for the rules. In this case, let us all stand for the rules, unless we can show that the rules have been wrongly applied.
But we have been told that not all laws should be enforced in a certain way. But we'll go on to that.
No, I don't think that will fly. But all rules should be enforced.
I was scandalized when I heard that. I was like, really? Coming from the legislator.
I stand firmly with the NCA on this one.
But you see, the NCA issued a press release, and it's interesting what they say here, that some of the FM broadcaster stations have never attempted to renew their authorization, and some for as long as 17 years. And it goes on to say that this has resulted in the stations depriving the state of statutory revenue.
Yes.
So we talk about revenue targets not being met, and we have all these places that we can be getting monies from, but we are not. So clearly that is an issue of concern. And so if the NCA, perhaps, yes, waking up from its long slumber, decides to,
you can only query them for how long they've been sleeping. You can also look at it also that, wait, there's a new regime, and this new regime is doing the right thing.
Right.
You cannot go up or around this and say, oh, they've applied the rules and the rules have come on my side, so it is. Unless you show that they've been arbitrarily applied, forget it. Keep quiet. Go and negotiate. Right. Go and pay. Or do what you have to do. But listen, we shouldn't sympathize with them. The same way we cannot sympathize with anybody who takes money away from the state, who is non-compliant. We shouldn't.
But let me also add quickly that yesterday...
I want to finish off.
Carry on.
Community radios are challenged because they are radios that perform a real service
for the communities,
for the
and
communities.
Local languages and all.
And they are smaller. They make less revenue. If you, as soon as you get out of the urban areas, you see the real service they do. And I'm happy that justice has been
tempered with mercy. A
bit of mercy for these ones, and they've been forgiven their fines.
Right.
And I think it's a step in. Again, it was forgiven across board. I don't think they went with. Certain institutions were forgiven and others were left off the hook.
Right, but yesterday in a press statement, the ministry indicated that, following the petition that was filed to the ministry by the affected stations, I think they had offered some reprieve, and they had, by that reprieve, slashed 50% off.
50%?
Yes.
It's too much.
Exactly. So I want to Honorable, you are with the ministry. Let's understand what went into that.
The press release says following the presentation of the Honorable Minister of Communications.
Right.
Okay, and yes, there are a number of steps that have been taken, but I believe that there are two facts that must be established here. We all we all should be on the same page that the NCA is mandated and has the capacity to penalize entities that have defaulted as far as their authorizations to use national spectrum is concerned. I believe that we all should also recognize the fact that NCA took the necessary steps to enable these entities to do what was responsible. They did a proper engagement. They sent out the right notifications, and I believe that we all are on the same page that the National Communications Act and then the Electronic Communications Act were acts that came into force under the previous administration, and Parliament was in full support, and that all of us as Ghanaians, and especially those of us as members of Parliament, if we believe that the penalties that are entrenched or are within the acts are punitive, then it's our responsibility to take steps to correct them. Let us also understand that the framers of that act, and I'll highly commend Honorable Majority Leader, Minority Leader. The idea that they have is that you are using national spectrum. It is a national resource. You are using it for some purposes, corporate social responsibility, commercial purpose, educational purpose. There are different categories, okay, for which you want to use this resource. And for the different categories, there's an arrangement, there's a commercial consideration that is required of you. Now, on the average, you are paying 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 Ghana cedis, okay, annually, for using this national spectrum. And the conditions are that 3 months before your authorization does expire, you have the responsibilities to renew your authorization.
And when it's given, it's for 5 years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you have a situation where you have a choice of paying 2,000 cedis a day for doing the right thing.
A year.
No, 2,000 cedis a year for doing the right thing, or pay 10,000 cedis a day for doing the wrong thing. If you are using national spectrum and you want to do the wrong thing, why are we celebrating those that are doing the wrong thing? I can't think far on that matter. I can't think madness. My brother Edward.
I have not spoken on this topic.
He may be agreeing with you.
My brother Edward. And I agree with him when he says laws are to be enforced. And I quote Edward Bauer, TV3 Newsday, 21st October 2017. Brilliant submission.
In the year of our Lord.
In the year of our Lord. God bless you, my brother. God bless you. May you live long. May you continue to run in your constituency and win your seat.
Carry on.
But you see, you cannot in one breath say that laws must be enforced, and then when you turn around, you go and say that the NCA is being draconian. I mean, from the where? But the good thing is that we have made a position, we have made a statement, we have sent out the right message that under His Excellency the President, the rule of law will be respected, we will do the right thing. Yesterday, like you have said, the press release, and it is conditional. Okay, even the community radio stations, for which the Honorable Minister has given approval that let us grant an amnesty. It is conditional that they have 30 days, okay, from the date of the release, that was yesterday, okay, to make sure that they submit their renewal applications and all outstanding documentations, okay, that are applicable. So it's not just a matter of you've been giving,
you need
to comply because that is what we are fighting for. Okay, now for the FM stations that have had the authorizations revoked, okay, we're saying that on a case-by-case basis, please send your position to the NCA, and then we'll review it.
To the minister?
To the NCA.
Was it to the NCA? To the minister?
Well, they report to the NCA, but of course, when you see the NCA has a board, okay, and the normal process would be that the NCA and this board would make a recommendation. Ultimately, like Edward is saying, is the minister that will take the decision.
Right.
But it would be an informed decision based on the recommendation of the board of the NCA and other information that may be available to the minister. Now, for the commercial stations that have had penalties, the release says that they have been given 50 days, and they have 30 days from October 20th to pay the 50% reduced penalties or have the authorizations revoked.
30 days, people are asking. Some amounts here are in the millions. So there are those who are asking. It's 30 days. Yes, you may have tampered justice with mercy, but once you are in the business of tampering justice with mercy, perhaps you need to go all out and...
If Joe Jackson commits a crime, and the crime says that this is the penalty or the punishment, it is he who has decided to go and commit the crime. You cannot go and say that because the penalty is harsh, so Joe Jackson should not face the law. On the flip side, Joe Jackson has an opportunity to appeal. Okay? And over again, the minister has sent this signal, send this signal, send this signal. Which part of this are you not taking advantage of? So this matter, I think...
So there's a possibility of a further laxing.
They should go and listen to what the minister said, okay, in Parliament. Okay, and look at the position of the minister in this press release. Okay, and do what is right and what is responsible.
Right. I'll move on to you, Nana. Let's hear you on this. Is this an attempt to, curtail freedom of speech in any way?
I find that branding very, very problematic, especially when it comes from members of parliament. First and foremost, when you look at the National Communications Authority, it's the creation of statutes. It came into being by reason of the National Communications Act, and therefore, we all know that when an institution has been created by statute, it can't do anything that has not been vested, or it cannot exercise powers that has not been vested in it by statute. And so, where, for instance, you think that the penalties that they are imposing on people for one default or the other is one which they do not have the power to do, then you have to go to court. I suspect they are not going to court because genuinely everybody believes that. Indeed, it's in the law.
Someone has gone to court. Radio Gold has gone to court.
Who?
Radio Gold has gone to court.
Over what?
No, on this case, you're asking
but
that they are not...
What are they seeking?
What are they seeking?
No, the fact that he said that...
When you say Radio Good has gone to court, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
No, but
he was indicating. He was indicating.
No,
he was saying that he's not surprised.
Do you have evidence that Radio Good have gone to court?
I'm just telling you that.
Let's not detract from the conversation.
I'm just telling you.
Let Nana continue.
But it's important that we establish that point, because the point that Nana is saying is that they are not going to court because they believe that the spirit of what the NCA is doing is right.
Right.
Okay, and he interjected that Radio Good have gone to court.
Well, whether or not they've gone, we'll find out soon.
Assuming they have even
sooner than later.
Assuming they have not gone to court, it's not true.
Assuming
they can't go to court.
Assuming they have even gone to court, right? The narrative, the discussion so far is not that what is being done is not warranted by law, but it is that even if it's warranted by law, it stifles free speech. And as to how that stifles free speech, we are yet to know. Simply because you are using a national spectrum and you are saying pay renewal charges that are warranted by law. You are saying that it stifles free speech. I mean, it's something that I really struggle to understand. But I've heard very, very preposterous narratives that would want that for me is a reason for us to look at Parliament as an institution. Some of the comments that have come out of this whole situation or issue, for me, if it is not the case of political partisanship or being mischievous, then we have got to resource Parliament in terms of research. Because some of the discourse that you say penalty is a tax, and by reason of the fact that it's a tax, it ought to have gone to Parliament. Penalty is not a tax. I heard a parliamentarian interpreting provisions of Article 108 of the Constitution to say that because it's a tax, you cannot impose a tax without going to Parliament, and so the penalty ought to have come to Parliament. And that day I cringed. I cringed. A penalty is imposed by an organization by reason of one default or the other. And that, as I said from the onset, ought to be ascertainable from a statute, the statute that established the institution. And so if you check the statute and it is not there, then it means they don't have the power.
Well, it's there. Let me quote it.
Yes.
So this is LI 1991. That's the Electronic Communications Regulations of 2011. Administrative penalty under Article Regulations 137, where it says it's headed administrative penalty. Where there is a breach of a provision of these regulations, the authority may impose a pecuniary penalty as the authority may determine, unless a penalty is otherwise provided for in these regulations. And they've gone ahead to attach a schedule of...
Exactly. So if there is a schedule of the penalty, then it presupposes that they are complying with even Article 296 of the Constitution, which is that you give an advance notice of such liabilities in terms of what you pay when you default. And so it appears the law in that regard is intact. When you have lawmakers saying that the law should not be enforced, it's problematic.
Nana, on that note, hold that thought. We need to take a break. When we come back, you continue with that, and then we wrap up on this conversation. You're watching NewDay Saturday edition. We will be right back.
You were comfortable in...
Welcome back. This is NewDay Saturday edition, live on TV3, also live on 3FM and our social media platforms, on our Facebook page, also on 3news.com and on GhanaWeb.com. We'll continue with this issue about the NCA. But before we go on, let me just correct something that came up on the show during our discussion of the Ameri agreement. I believe we made reference to PwC and tried to associate it with what had happened in South Africa concerning some ethical issues. I need to correct the point here that it's not PwC, but rather KPMG that had that issue in South Africa. So on record, I'm clarifying that bit. So it's KPMG and not PwC, and that should be put on record. Yes. So
it's not done.
Is it? So yes, Nana was concluding. Yes. So I will need to go back on that. Yes.
I mean, so it's so, as I was saying before we left off for the break, there's a difference between a penalty and a tax. Mm-hmm. Tax ought to go to Parliament. Penalties, they are administrative sanctions, which are contained in the statute that created the administrative body, or they are given the power to do so, and therefore mostly consequent or in accordance with Article 296, they publish ahead of time such penalty, so that you know beforehand what you could be liable to for one default or the other. Mm. And so penalties and taxes are different. Right. What the NCA is imposing is a penalty and not a tax. Now, I've also heard people saying that not all laws ought to. I heard a parliamentarian said that not all laws ought to be enforced. Again, I cringed. You are sent to Parliament to pass laws, and you are telling us that not all laws should be enforced. And Ghanaians do not know which law would be enforced or would not be enforced. But we know that one cardinal tenet of the principle of the rule of law is that we ought to know the law before you say that we are falling foul of the law, right? And so we cannot we cannot be punished for laws that we never knew.
We don't know about.
Exactly. And so if you are telling us that there's going to be selective enforcement of the law, then it's problematic. That is why I'm saying that we ought to resource Parliament, so that I am presuming that these arguments have been made on the basis of ignorance. And so they ought to be resourced in terms of research. It's not just Parliament, even our judiciary, our judges, they need a lot of resources. So state institutions all over need resources, competent researchers and well-fitted libraries to enable them, assist them, so that we don't get these comments.
But maybe you're ruling out the fact that maybe it was said because of partisan reasons.
I just want to rule it out because I want to believe they are working for us.
Very well.
Otherwise, it's also because if it is partisan, then it is because of the recent phenomenon where political party sympathizers have acquired radio stations all over. But I don't want to proceed on that. I want to assume that they are working for Ghana and it is born out of ignorance, and so they should be resourced so that they don't make such ignorant statements.
Very well. Honorable Bauer, what do you make of this? Why is the minority in Parliament raising these issues about NCA's compliance with its laws?
Thank you very much. I think that the sanctions that have been given out by NCA to some number of radio stations in Ghana has been a subject that has been of huge interest to everybody. I think that it's not for nothing that Ghana, for example, we are not seen hitting each other since 1992 in terms of what do you call it, our democratic this thing that we've been doing. If you look at Ghana in terms of the ability to air your views, the freedom of expression and what have you, has been very phenomenal. I think that if you look back for some of the excesses, and those excesses you find them even in the US, you find them in the UK and any other places, we've been able to have an environment where people can air their views. And I've always indicated that if you have people not if you have people always airing their, if you have people who normally have the opportunity to air their views, the tendency to resort to violence is a bit minimal. If maybe you do something to me consistently and I'm not able to tell you, maybe the next time I'm going to react, I may be reacting a very violent because it's a pent-up, what they call it, a reaction within me. So for me, I think that freedom of expression and other things have been very fantastic. This has been as a result of platforms that have been provided for us, whether through the electronic media, whether through newspapers, or now we have the social media that comes on board. So even sometimes when people make utterances and people are arrested, people jump on them. You remember these just a few weeks back, or maybe about a month or two, when the gentleman tried quoting WikiLeaks, the report on the current president about his usage of illicit drugs, and he was arrested. I mean, there was an outcry. And in fact, you had even people who were very close to the president saying that they were very sure that the president himself would not approve of this particular arrest. It tells you the level to which we have gone with these things. Now, yes, there are laws that have been put in place. And one of the arguments people have always made is that, look, that it appears the NCA Act in itself is at loggerheads with the Constitution. And they normally will rely on, the Constitution to make that. I'll just look it through, so I tried looking at it. If you look at 162.3, it says that there shall be no impediments to the establishment of private press or media. And in particular, there shall be no law requiring any person to obtain a license as a prerequisite to the establishment or operation of a newspaper, journal, or other media for mass communication or information.
But honorable,
I'm coming. Let me make my point. No. I'm just. Let me build. You don't know what I'm going to say, so don't preempt what I'm going to say. Don't preempt what I'm going to say.
Carry on.
Don't preempt what I'm going to say.
Carry on. My bad.
Can I make my point?
Carry on, please.
Can I make my
Please allow him.
point? Can I make my point?
Think far.
Honorable, you have the
You think
floor,
all the things you said, I
please.
agreed with it all, but I allowed you to say them. So, if if you take a cursory read at this, you will think that, as we speak today, what the NCA is doing is an affront to the Constitution. If you take a
respectfully,
I'm coming. Let me make a point.
Okay, carry on.
Oh, why wouldn't you let me make my point?
The only person who can speak when he speaks is me. Please.
You see, so let me make my point.
Yes.
You see, when you do this, you see, the viewers are seeing it. I told you that they said that this panel was cute.
You have the floor.
As a feedback.
Listen,
and you are
we are not going, please, carry on.
So, the issue is, however, there has been a Supreme Court ruling on the radio item about the fact that, look, if you look at the spectrum, it's a finite resource, and I agree. And therefore, there must be a regulation in how it is used and other things. So, when you are applying a rule, you may have to look at it on the basis of the fact, look, yes, we have a peculiar case because of particularly the type of resource we are using, and then there's a law. The general belief is that we want as much as possible to give avenues to Ghanaians to be, or maybe the citizens to be able to air their view.
That's all. That is fine. I mean, let's address.
You raise a very
valid
given me an
point.
opportunity. You have given me an opportunity.
We need to direct the conversation.
See,
such
so I am coming.
We are not creating misperceptions out there.
No, it is not for you to think that they are misconceived.
No, I have a role to play as a moderator, and I'm playing
let me make my point.
Yes.
So, if you go on to impose on this, you then have to ask yourself, what was your own role in ensuring that we've gotten to where we have gotten today, whereby you have radio stations being fined 5 million, maybe 50,000, 61 million, 48 million, and what have you? Over the years, the law itself says that over a period of time, you need to go for a renewal of your authorization. Over the years, there are radio stations who have not been doing that. And therefore, we have gotten to this place. However, these same radio stations, on yearly basis, pay their regulatory fees to you. You are the regulator of the system. Every year I come, I give you money as my regulatory fees. You collect it. Meanwhile, you know that I'm not in good standing in terms of what do you call it? Renewal. My renewal. And you consistently collect it over this period. There's a clear negligence on your part as an institution. That you will have to take.
That is fine, but it still doesn't take away the fact that the FM stations also had a responsibility.
So that is why,
and they could be
that's
sanctioned.
why there is this argument that, look, in as much as you are supported by law, in as much as you are supported by the act that established you, your very action also contributed to the state in which we are. So there must be a negotiation between
under the previous administration.
This thing was from 2007. If they say, is it from 2007? 2007 was the previous administration. Is it?
Which one?
2008 was John Mahama, isn't
2008.
it? 2008 was John Mahama.
Carry on.
So, I don't know who people sent you to come here today. So you realize that your own very behavior has led to this particular thing. There's a third point that I want to make.
Our time is up. So.
Yes, no, there's a third point. That's a very important point. You know, I was asking you for the release on the NCA thing, but it's a 30-page document, but you just had the first 5. If you look at that document, the page that revoked Muntie's license and asked them not to operate was the same page that revoked the license of OKFM. On the same page, OKFM was also there. Immediately that happened, Muntie was taken off air.
Hey, when you say Muntie was taken off air, what do you mean?
They were not operating.
Whose action was that?
Let me make my point.
No.
Let me make my point.
You seem to be suggesting that the NCA took Muntie off.
Let me make my point.
NCA.
Let me make my point.
Let me clarify.
You and I know. No, when I feel he can clarify. There's time, no time. You don't want me to make my point. As we speak, Muntie has been out of service for roughly about a week to the plus. OKFM just went off just 3 days on Wednesday. I have said that I don't have proof that this is partisan.
True.
But however, no.
Up, please. But
I want to agree. No, yes.
Quickly, so please,
But I believe, I want to side with one of my colleagues who said that look, if you see something that looks like a duck, it sounds like a duck, and walks like a duck, then it must necessarily be a duck.
Very well.
And so on the basis of this, I think that, look, the excitement in the mind, if you see Jordan, that when he's talking, he's so excited about this thing. I don't know what the long-term strategy is in terms of these things.
Quickly, before we go, quickly. The credit will be running very soon. Quickly.
It is not true
that the NCA took any media house off air. All the media houses that went off air did so voluntarily. It's not true that
instructions.
It's not true that
so how come that you didn't take that? That means you remained on your duties.
It's not true that OKFM was running until Wednesday.
Right.
Okay. OKFM, we monitor and they went off air, I think, over the weekend.
Very well. But
Okay,
too bad we can't go on. This is all the time we have. But we would say a big thank you to the panelists, Mr. Joe Jackson, Honorable George Andon, Naneje Bafwewa, Honorable Edward Bauer, and obviously to you, viewers and listeners out there. We thank you so much. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, do have yourself a very good weekend and a productive week. Bye-bye.